the QuestionPro account. We'll be going through a couple of options over here that we have in terms of admin rights. We'll be going through user management. How do we manage users on QuestionPro? How can we add users? How can we remove users from the university license as well? And certain roles that we can assign as admins, like certainly there are different roles that we can assign to users in QuestionPro. You can align them into different departments and then also have administrators for certain departments as well. Then we'll be diving into organization and teams, like how do we structure different departments within the university and organize users in QuestionPro. We'll also cover the single sign-on. I think so we've already got that set up for QuestionPro, so users can simply sign into the QuestionPro account using their the Azure login. We'll also go through the users dashboard in terms of how do we look into usage across the university? How are users from different departments or different teams using the license? We'll also cover the university survey theme, which we'll be setting this. We'll be setting a default survey theme for the university, which has like the brand guidelines followed across with the university brand guidelines, and we'll have that set up as a default theme. So as all users who create new surveys will have that option to use the default theme or optionally change the theme of the surveys as well. And then we'll do a quick overview of the support system for QuestionPro and how we would be handling support requests coming in from any end users, and how can QuestionPro help in those points. So let's get started. I'm going to dive into the admin account. So right now we've only set up one account as an administrative account for QuestionPro, and that's Brandon's account. And so this is his account right now. So once you dive into the account, you'll be able to see your QuestionPro dashboard over here, where you get to see your surveys, and then like we have organization, users dashboard, and then we've got mobile here. Now, first of all, let's dive into the organization settings, right? So we can either access it from here, or we can go over here and then access organization from here as well. So let's go to organization. All right, so once you log into your organization, you can see like they're listed, set of users who have already started, testing QuestionPro, in the scale to understand how the platform works. They're like creating surveys and like distributing surveys, getting feedback, and like trying to get some, first-hand experience onto the platform. So these users are automatically being provisioned over here once they sign in through the single sign-on login URL. So there's a portal which has been created where users can simply sign into QuestionPro and they'll have a user account automatically provisioned over here. Now, over here, you see that they are provisioned through an email address. So QuestionPro identifies the email address as a unique identifier from the single sign-on database, and it just passes that information to QuestionPro, and it creates an account for the user over here. The created date is listed over here, so you can see that the accounts have been created on these listed dates. And you see an option which is called as business unit over here. Now, business unit is basically a team or a department that you can provision in QuestionPro. So if you go over here, you see an option which is called as teams. So if I click on this option, we have this one team set up over here, which is called the UTA QuestionPro Kickoff. Now, I'm assuming these are the power users which have been created, or which are going to be exploring QuestionPro in depth to understand how the platform works. And then you'll have two types of user accounts. One are users and one are dashboard users. So users are those accounts who have the permission to go ahead and create surveys, distribute surveys, and analyze data, right? So they basically have all access to create and send out surveys. So any student or researcher would have like a user account created on QuestionPro over here and will be listed as a user. Now, whenever a user signs up to QuestionPro, right, by default, they do not get provisioned into a business unit. They're just like aligned under users over here. And then you can see like there are a couple of list of users automatically provisioned over here, but they are not assigned to a business unit. So they need to be organized, and this can be done by the administrators. They can just organize a particular user by clicking in on edit user over here. So for example, if I click on edit user, I have an option to select which business unit do I assign this to. So you can simply set this up as this particular department, and then you can assign different departments in the team settings over here as well. Now, over here in terms of user management roles, right? So there are certain roles that you have in terms of, an administrator. You will have an ability to go ahead and edit a user account. You can go ahead and edit the email address, or probably reset the password for the user, and so on. But since we have set up QuestionPro through single sign-on at UTA, certain options like reset password won't be necessary because they'll be using the Windows credentials to sign into QuestionPro accounts itself. So it's, at least this option will not be considerably important unless and until they're not using single sign-on. But right now, what we have set up in the UTA license is that all the users have to use single sign-on to sign into QuestionPro. They won't be able to directly log on to questionpro.com using a username and password. So that's how we have set it up. And if there's any user who comes to questionpro.com and probably just signs in for an essential or a free account with us, right? Or probably even signs up for any particular license on QuestionPro, they will automatically be aligned or connected to the UTA license. So it automatically gets attached to the university license over here, considering they have a domain, a user account with uta.edu. So that's about like user provisioning, right? So on another hand, you have an option to click on add user over here, and you'll be able to simply click on add users and add a user account. Right now, it seems that the bulk pricing needs to be enabled. James, could you add bulk pricing for this user? And we need to add around 40,000 user accounts for this license right now.
Doing that now, for sure.
Okay, great. So we'll just have that provision from the backend, but as we say, we'll be able to click on add a user account. You'll have an option over here to simply click on add user, and then you need to just add the email address and the name of the user, and the user account would be set up for the user. The user will then get an email sent to the account with the username and the password. You can alternatively set up a welcome email as well. So for example, if you go to organization here and you have an option called as settings, we have an option to set up a welcome email. So over here, you have an ability to write an introduction email over here, which can be completely customized. So you can put in the first name of the user, and then you can type in some content which will automatically be addressed to each user who signs up to the QuestionPro account. Now, this email will be sent out from an administrative account in QuestionPro, and it will just give them the users info, give the users who are probably signing into the QuestionPro account with certain information around how QuestionPro works and what do they need to do if they need to contact support, and all those kind of information that we probably want to send for a user to get started. So since we're doing a couple of other training webinars on the product as well, we can draft a brief email over here, and Brandon, then I leave it up to you on the content that you want to publish here, and we can enable this to go out to every user who gets an account provisioned on QuestionPro on this setup.
Sounds good.
So, as of now, I'm going to disable this option right now. So the emails are not going to be going out until we have the content from familiarized. So once we have that, we can just go ahead and enable this option. Put in the content, and it will automatically send out an introduction email to all the users who get provisioned. All right, so then going back to the user management, right? So there are certain options that you can also do over here. So you can see the list of users, over here. And at this point of time, the role that is probably provisioned over here for this user account is a user role. QuestionPro today only has the ability to use one particular role that is like a user role. You cannot set up like different permissions or roles for different users at this point of time. But we have introduced this new feature which is called as user roles and permissions, where you'll be able to assign like different roles and permissions to a user account. This is going to be going live on 27th of June, but I want to show you what that instance would also look like over here. entmaps.questionpro.com. I'm just going to try to log into one of our test instances over here. Okay, so I'll be able to log in right now, but let me just open up a deck. All right, so this is going to be released on 27th of June, but again, like what this is going to give access to administrators is like you can create different type of roles and set up permissions that can be given to users. So for example, you can have an administrator who is just like a user management which has just user management roles for a particular department. So for example, let's say you have uh, Department of Psychology at UTA, right? And um, let's say there is a user who is going to be probably the primary user or the administrator for that department. You can create a user account for that user and set up a different permission level for him. So, and then these permission levels can be categorized based on these options that you can give out. So you have edit, analytics, integration, user management, and others. So like these are the options that will be available for you to customize for a user role. And so you can give the ability to edit responses or probably add. So in terms of user management, you can give out all these roles. Um, in terms of features, you can enable any of these roles over here. So like these are like basic roles in terms of having access to the tool. But like in terms of user management, you've got all these roles to customize over here. And how do we set that up? It's also really easy. So if you want to create a new role, so for example, you want to set up like a super admin, or if you want to set up like a department admin, you can create a department admin over here and just check the features that you want that user to be enabled. Generally, you would probably just enable edit, analytics, and integrations, and then probably certain user management roles for that, for that administrator. And how do we assign it? It's basically creating a user account over here. So let me just click this on presentation mode. So you'll just probably create a user account over here, and then you'll assign a role and team, and that user will be able to administer that particular team over here. So you've got like server collaborator or probably an admin, and then you set up an example and you just click on save changes over here. And then there's also a possibility where you'll be able to assign like roles for multiple users as well. So you can like do a search and like select the users in bulk and then assign or change the roles for that particular user. So that's about the user roles and permissions, which is coming up. Right now, it's just like a user option that we have over here, but these will be released on 27th of June, where you'll be able to assign it to any of these user accounts as well. Um, so that's about managing users. There's also an option over here for the global administrator to log into users' accounts. So if you see over here, I can, as an administrator, I can simply click on login, and I'll be able to troubleshoot on any of those user accounts. Right now, I do not have access to login over here because it's through single sign-on. But once we have Brandon login, he'll be able to log into any of the user accounts to see if all these accounts have been, uh, have the ability to probably send out surveys, or do they have their, if they have any issues, they can, be troubleshoot immediately by the administrators over here. So they can log into the accounts and manage the entire account for the end user as well, as the end user.
I'll be very grateful for that capability. That is something that I currently rely on in Qualtrics on occasion whenever we have someone, perhaps leave one department or they separate from the university and their content has to be transferred to their successor or to a fellow collaborator. So I do facilitate quite a bit of that currently. So I'm pleased to hear that that's coming down the pipe very soon.
So that's correct. So the ability to log in is available right now. So just in case if any user leaves, you'll be able to log into the user account. And so, once you're into the user's account, you'll be able to see the account as I see it right now. So I'm already into your account right now, right? So I see your surveys over here. That's why I'm not able to do like a multiple login instance right now since I've already dived into your account. But when you're doing it, you'll be able to log into any of the user accounts in your QuestionPro account.
Very good.
And so, for example, if a user is leaving as well, right? So for example, let's say we have an account with username and we have logged into the user's account and they have like a couple of surveys and folders created over here, right? So you have an option to select that folder and click on share folder, and you can share that to the successor over here. So for example, if the successor already has a QuestionPro account, you can just type in their email address and give them access to edit. So edit access has access to all the surveys and they can go and edit the survey. They can send it out on and work on them further as well. So that's basically the level of access that you want to give out to that particular successor. If you want to probably share it with the department, you have the ability to do that as well. So let's say if a user from a particular department has left and that user's surveys need to be shared with the entire department, you have the ability to share it with the particular department that will be listed over here as well.
Hey, Harshan, this is Tom George.
Hey, Tom.
Hey, what's going on? Hey, quick question for you. The departments, does that have to be like manually created, or does that come through the SSO? And this might be a dumb question, but I'm just kind of wondering if we would have to manually create those departments.
So good question. So as of now, we need to create them manually because we're not passing that information to QuestionPro. But from 27th of June, we'll be able to update the single sign-on settings where we'll be able to pass on the information of the department through single sign-on as well. So at this point, QuestionPro only accepts one entity, that is the email address through single sign-on. But from 27th of June, we'll be able to pass on all relevant information through, it can be the department, it can be even the role as well. So you can pick and choose, what information that you want to pass on from Azure to your QuestionPro.
Well, would that be something that is an automatic thing, or would we have to like begin the process, like connect with your team or whatever to get a request to move forward with stuff like that?
It's going to be like a slight update on your single sign-on setup. Certainly my team will, go ahead and reach out to you once this feature update is released, and we'll go ahead and update that at that point of time. But at least till 27th of June, whatever users have signed up at that point of time needs to be manually organized into departments.
Okay. That June 27th date is in line with the project. So I don't know, maybe that might be something we might consider being in scope of the project or something. But that's basically it. Thank you.
Great, perfect. So, my team will keep you posted and we'll, update you once these, this feature is released. At this point of time, it is live on beta. We are testing this out thoroughly. And, just want to make sure that it's thoroughly tested before we roll it out. And on 27th of June, we'll update you once the feature is released with, an update to the administrators of UTA with, the help files as well as a training video as well on how do you set this up. So we can send you a recording of how do you manage roles and permissions with the training video once we have this live. Okay, so let's go back to organization. All right, so we were just looking to the user accounts over here, right? So we see the list of users We also have an ability to click on add user over here. So you can definitely provision one right now. So you can see that the available users are set up over here. Second. Okay, I'll have this checked in terms of adding users. We just need to enable that option here. I guess we have not set this up because of single sign-on, but I'll take a look and let you know. We've gone through teams as well, so you know how to create a team. It's really easy. You just simply click on add a new team. Here, you just set up a department. So for example, I'll say department A, for example. I click on add, and then I get to see the department over here. If I click on these three options, I have an ability to edit this, and I can assign a primary user account for that particular department as well. So certainly in the new flow, you'll have like the primary admin for this department as well, which you can possibly assign. And the user will also be able to manage the user accounts if we have assigned user management permissions to that user when it's assigned to that department here. All right, so I'll just quickly go ahead and delete this since this is on live environment. Okay, so that's about setting up departments and managing users in QuestionPro. So just going back to the slide, we've covered user management, we've covered role management as well, which is going to be released on 27. Now let's go into organization teams. Organization and teams. I think so we've covered that as well. So we've gone to the option of how do we create a team, single sign-on. So we've already set up single sign-on for UTA. And again, the single sign-on settings can be managed in global settings over here. And these settings will be only available for the primary administrator or the global administrator for QuestionPro, which will be Brandon's account. And these are the details that you can see for a single sign-on. So we've set up the settings over here, and we've restricted users to log in through single sign-on over here. And this is the logout URL. This is the single sign-on URL where users are authenticated into the QuestionPro account. And that's the ACS URL that we've set up. So this has already been set up. And again, like once we're going to be updating this data, once we have the release, we'll update the settings in the administrative account over here. Now, another important aspect of single sign-on that we want to cover is there are users who probably want to use survey authentication through single sign-on. And that can be enabled over here. So if there is any user account who needs survey authentication through single sign-on, you need to set the settings over here in the global administrative account. Now, what is survey authentication through single sign-on? So for example, let's say if I have a user in UTA who has a project who wants to send out a survey to users within the UTA campus, and you want to send it out to a group of, let's say, 10 respondents, and these respondents have been sent out an email from that particular user about the survey invite, and they have to click on the link and then start the survey. But before they start the survey, they need to authenticate that they're a user from UTA, and that's the same account. So they can authenticate using single sign-on itself and then start the survey. So this can come into use for certain projects who are probably research surveys which are done for internal research, or certain users who are probably using single sign-on as an authentication method to authenticate the users. So you can enable this option over here, and then users will be able to use single sign-on as an authentication method to authenticate the survey itself. All right, so
Now that option,
Mhm.
that's just if we're not going to be sending surveys outside of UTA, right?
That's for any internal survey authentication that you want to do. So if someone's doing surveys internally within the UTA, that's when you would probably want that.
Okay.
All right, so Over here, you get to see like certain, settings in the administrative account, which are like email server. So right now we're, using the QuestionPro default server. We do also have an option to use SMTP and relay the surveys through the UTA email servers, but we're going to kind of keep it default to the QuestionPro email server right now. And over here, we have an option called as issue tracker, right? So uh, the administrator will have the access to see all the tickets created under the administrative account over here and look into issues which have been reported. So I think so this issue was reported by one of the users, and then it was reported on this date. This is the ticket, and this is the ETA, and you can see the progress of the status over here for that particular ticket. So any issues which have been reported can be tracked in the issue tracker for the administrative accounts over here itself. All right, so next up is compliance over here. So the administrative account will also have an option to update certain options over here in terms of compliance. So can spam details can be updated over here. So this is basically to authenticate UTA as a safe sender. So you can just fill in the details of the university over here and then have this updated. In terms of privacy, you can click on this option over here and enable these two compliance options if you want to. So if you want to enable GDPR compliance, you can enable this over here, and CCPA can be also enabled over here as well. In terms of accessibility, QuestionPro is 508 compliant. So, this was also a part of the contract or the initial agreement with UTA that QuestionPro or the survey software has to be 508 compliant. You can enable Section 508 compliance over here for the entire organization in the administrative. If I go to billing and invoices, this is where I get to see, any invoices which are pending or, created. So we just have, one invoice that's over here, which is billed. So this was obviously in process. I'm speaking to Rennie and the other folks over there to have this process. But again, you can see those details over here. All right, so now let's go back to my account over here, and we'll go into the user account information. So once you go to my account, every user has a unique customer ID, and the customer ID is locked over here. So any user account who probably faces any issue or probably has any help or request that's just been sent out through a ticket to QuestionPro, it's tracked using the customer ID. So you can either provide the email address of the user or the customer ID as a unique identifier, and you can send that over to us for any help that's required for that user account. Over here, you get to also define the language, the default language, and then obviously the time zone is set up over here as Central Time. You can also set up the date format and set that up over here. And then let's go back to my surveys and let's dive into the usage dashboard. All right, so this is the usage dashboard for all the users in in the QuestionPro license. So you can actually look into user-wise statistics over here, or if you're just going to look into all users, you can just have that set up over here. So we can see that we have 31 users who have licensed with QuestionPro right now. The overall surveys that have been created in QuestionPro account is 82 surveys with 2K responses and 1.6K completes. The devices that you see over here are offline devices which have been set up on QuestionPro. So users who have registered an offline device key on the QuestionPro account. So over here, you get to see how many emails have been actually sent through QuestionPro. So you see 108 emails have been sent. There are 41 email lists which have been uploaded with 2.5K email addresses. So these are the overall contacts that have been uploaded into the QuestionPro account. So these are other products that QuestionPro also supports. That's communities, workforce, and customer experience. So you can disregard these 3 product lines because they're mapped for different products. But again, like these key widgets are the most important ones to track the usage for the QuestionPro license across the university. And then you also will have the ability to filter based on a particular department, and you can filter it based on a particular time as well over here. So that's a complete overview of the usage dashboard. Then we can dive into credits over here. Now, QuestionPro supports SMS surveys, right? So if any user needs to run an SMS survey, the user can go ahead into the individual account and buy credits. So SMS credits can be purchased directly online by simply clicking buy credits, and then the user will be given an option to purchase SMS credits online and then use it for sending out SMS surveys. So if I click on buy credits right now, it gives me the details to add the credit card details over here and then directly purchase and the overall, the credits for the SMS surveys. So again, this will be built individually for user accounts, whoever want to send out SMS surveys. Again, this is like an optional service. Anyone who wants to probably run that can either reach out to the administrators and they can do a purchase on behalf of the users, or the users can then directly go ahead and purchase the credits themselves through a credit card. All right, so then we can just go to a statistics graph over here, which will just give you like a statistics count of number of surveys and responses being collected over a period of month, and just like a graph to give you a graphical representation of that data. So that's about the user's dashboard. I think so. We've covered the user's dashboard here, right? And then we'll go to the next option. That's the university survey theme. So QuestionPro has the ability to set up like a unified theme for the entire university. So you can suggest like brand guidelines in terms of how do you want the theme to be set up. You can give us a logo, colors, particular fonts that you want to use on the survey, and so on. So what you particularly need to do is you need to create a survey theme in the administrative account. So for example, if I go to my surveys over here, and let's say I open up this test survey here, right? I have an option to click on add logo over here. So I can add a logo and then go to design and then set up a custom theme over here. So I can choose particular color palettes and then even choose a theme color, logo background. So I have an option to customize the whole setting over here, right? So if I go to settings, I can save a custom theme in my QuestionPro account over here. So once that's saved, you can either request, QuestionPro, account managers to go and save that for you in terms of a global theme, and they can go ahead and set it up for you. So all you need to do is just create a custom theme and then just request the account managers to set up that as a default theme for the entire UTA campuses, and they'll be able to. So whenever they're creating a survey, it will use the default theme as the survey theme for them to, use like, as a brand guideline for the university campus to follow for all their surveys. But they will have the ability to change the themes over here as well. So
Harshad, can you, not that it's urgent, okay, but just curious, from the point at which we make those settings, okay, for our university branding, what's your turnaround time on your end?
So the turnaround time for us is 24 hours. We should be able to set this up immediately as we have the theme set up. So it's instant.
That's okay. That's great. Thank you. Yeah, I figured it would not take very long. I just wanted to make sure.
Hey, can I jump in real quick? It's Tom George again. I invited Mike Tackett on, and Mike, if you want to introduce yourself, you can. But he's from University Advancement, and Brandon, he can help us with updating the themes and the logo that's appropriate, from whether it be just basically kind of using the same theme from Qualtrics or what. But I don't know, Mike, if there's like a more updated look that we can go for that's still compliant with UA, but is that something you'd speak on, or is that something you can help us with for this project?
Yeah, this is Mike. Yeah, we have a updated look that we've been working on for a while, and it looks like we can probably do a lot to apply it to this. I see there's a little button for custom CSS. Yeah, so we could probably go in there and make maybe some adjustments to spacing or size of things, maybe real specific colors. But yeah, it looks like we can do that.
Harshad, what kind of access do we need to give Mike to be able to get in here and do that thing? Would that just be normal admin access, or?
So, what we can do is in terms of setting up the survey theme, right? So Mike can go ahead and set up the custom CSS over here in his QuestionPro account. So as long as he has a QuestionPro account, he can go to create a survey and then go to design, and he can work on, the survey themes over here and customize the theme. And he can just send us the code over here that's in his account, or we can just pick it up from his account and set that up as a global theme once it's done.
Mike, is that something you could do for us?
Yeah, I believe so.
In terms of timeline, Mike, I know this is a little bit out of scope for this conversation, but we're trying to go live with the tool by the 19th. Is that something you'll have time to work on before then?
Let's see, it's about 2 weeks or so. I think so. Yeah, I don't see why not.
Cool. Hey, James or Paish, if you're on, can you also or maybe Brandon, can you provision access for Mike Tackett?
Yeah,
So
I'll take care of that myself.
Thank you.
I can do that right away.
All right, that's it, guys. No more bothering you. Go ahead.
Right. All right. So let's go back. I think we've covered survey theme. All right. So the last point is QuestionPro support overview. QuestionPro has like 3 tiers of support. So the first level of support is the frontline support team, which is going to be available on chat. So if you go to questionpro.com/help, or if you go to any QuestionPro website, you'll see like the chat window pop up over here, and then you can start a request with any one of our support engineers right away. And if you go to questionpro.com/chat, there's like a help library where you can get help files for each and every aspect of QuestionPro over here, with each and every feature within the product itself, right? So you can just go over here and like start off a chat with one of our support agents. Like you just need to drop in your name, your email, and then your query. And then you can start an instant chat with one of our support engineers, and they can help you with your query right away. Just in case, if you need to be, if you need further assistance in terms of the query, like there needs to be extensive troubleshooting done, the support engineer will then further send you a link to Zoom, and they will set up a Zoom call with you to troubleshoot and resolve the user's query. So any end user who has any queries or technical support that's required for any particular end user on UTA can directly reach out to the chat support over here, and then start off, an instant chat with one of our support reps. Alternatively, they have an option to create a support ticket with us as well. So if they click on QuestionPro support over here, and there's a contact us option over here, and then they can create a support ticket by completing this form. So once they complete this form, the user will be contacted immediately as well, to understand what the particular issue is, and they'll be guided through one of the support reps itself. So this is the first level of support, which is directly available for all end users. Then comes the account managers. So again, like, most of you guys already know who they are. So James and Piyush are 2 account managers for UTA from QuestionPro. They'll be responsible for any, technical queries or, any account management related issues on the support front. So you can reach out to them directly. So I think so. James has already shared the details with Brandon and Tom. So you guys, you already have the details with them. You can share that internally with with the group, so as they can be contacted by any administrative account within UTA itself. It doesn't only have to be Brandon; it can be any administrator from any particular department, or anyone else as well. So you can route those queries to him, to these two guys, and they'll take that up. All right, so that's the second level of support. Third level of support is, you can send out an email to edu@questionpro.com, and that email has been, monitored and managed by most of the customer success managers as well as myself. So if there's anything that needs to be escalated or probably needs to be assigned or managed with a complex query that needs